In this podcast episode, we have an incredible guest with us from Mullumbimby in northern New South Wales. Originally from London, our guest Paul Benhaim discovered the wonders of hemp seeds in Canada in 1991. He's not just a hemp enthusiast though, he's an innovator. Paul has created hemp-based chocolate bars and more, but his impact goes beyond food. Paul's a jack of all trades, from founding businesses to creating music and even hosting. His background managing a luxury health spa and working in Australia's hemp industry has fueled his dream of a sustainable health retreat. Join us for a chat with Paul Benhaim, a hemp and sustainability pioneer.
Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast. And as you know that I'm mad about hemp and it's something I really love and enjoy. And today we've got Paul coming on to tell us about his history in hemp. I think, Paul, you've been in the hemp industry for a very long time. So, mate, tell us a bit about how long you've been in hemp and where it all started. And yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. And thanks, everyone, for listening in to a story that includes, I think, nearly 3 decades of being in hemp. It's when I first started in the 90s. And I was traveling, I'd left school quite early and traveling Asia. And I discovered that there was an interest for me in, 1, indigenous cultures, and 2, in food and nutrition. And the more I got into that, the more I realized that most people were consuming natural-based foods. And that was keeping them healthy and happy, even though these kind of people I met in Asia were living in shit and what looked like disease. I was brought up in middle class, taught that you had to wash your hands and be clean. These people were doing the opposite of that, yet they were the healthiest, most radiant people I'd ever met. And I was like really fascinated by why that was. The more I looked into it, the more I realized it's because they're eating close to nature. And I was like, okay, but why is that? Why does that make such a big difference? It was that and living in community, to be honest, were the 2 main things I picked out. And I decided to study both of those things. So food and nutrition and then community living. And I've been doing that for the last 3 decades. And with food, that led me to understanding that when you have unprocessed foods as close to nature, they contain a number of different things. 1, more vibrancy and energy, but 2, essential fatty acids. Now, when you put things on the supermarket shelves, you have to get rid of essential fatty acids because they degrade quickly. So people who want to store foods long want to get rid of the good fats and put in the bad, longer lasting fats. So when you eat closer to nature, you're naturally going to get these essential fatty acids. So that I learned from that just traveling. And then later on, when I was in Canada, someone told me that hemp seeds contained essential fatty acids. And I knew that hemp could be used for paper, ropes, clothes, maybe fuel at that time. And I met this guy who was running his car on pure hemp oil or cannabis oil. I found that fascinating. And I knew you could smoke the stuff, but I had no idea that you could use it as a food. And even if it was a food, I was like, well, I don't want to get high from that. If I want to get high, smoke a joint. But no, these guys were telling me, don't get high from it. It just contains the best source of essential fatty acids on the planet. And I was like, wow, it sounds too good to be true. I did my research and found out that was 100% correct. And then I did that by finding the world's leading fats and oils doctors. A guy called Dr. Udo Erasmus, and I learned from his book, Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill. That taught me that hemp was a phenomenal product. I asked him why he wasn't promoting it. He said, yeah, in my book, I wrote a paragraph on it. I'm like, you're the world's leading guy on fats and oils. You've written 1 paragraph on this really thick book. And he said, yeah, because, I don't want to put my name to something that has a bad image. I'm like, well, why has it got a bad image? It's so good. He said, people connect it with cannabis that gets you high. I'm like, but the food doesn't get you high. I said, no. And that was it. I was like, okay, well, I'm on a mission to tell the world that this is absolutely a great product. So I created, I went to Europe to create a food product. I'm sorry, go on. Do you want to?
So there's a misconception of, you probably know the numbers a lot better than me. And I think there's more strains of hemp that don't have high THC in them. Is that correct?
Well, so naturally, hemp will have around 1 or 2% THC, 1 to 3% maybe. So today, industrial hemp is officially maximum 1% of THC, but the cannabis that most people buy and consume to smoke or as medicine is 20 or 30% THC. So absolutely naturally, it's far closer to the very low THC varieties.
Yeah. So what is the real difference between hemp and cannabis, though? So what makes them different?
So I learned all these things on my journey in creating first food product, which I did in the United Kingdom, where I was originally based. No one else was doing it. And I had to basically explain, what is the difference between hemp and cannabis to everybody. And there is none. That is that the actual real fact is cannabis is the Latin name for the plant. It includes all different forms of hemp or marijuana. And most people use the term hemp to define cannabis that contains low amounts of THC that is legal, and marijuana to define most forms of cannabis that have higher THC. But ultimately, you can grow both strains to get seeds, fuel, fiber, housing products, all of these things from both, whether it's high or low THC. It doesn't matter. It looks the same. It smells the same. So when I grow, lots of, 1,000 acres of hemp, it looks like I'm growing 1,000 acres of THC. But however, it depends what you're growing it for. So if you grow it close together, the plants look really like all the stalks will be close together and there'll be really tall crops, which promotes, and when you grow them close together, they're all fighting for the sun. So it promotes long fiber growth and giving you large amounts of biomass. When you want to grow it for high THC, you're growing it for the flowers. So you give them space between each other and the plants grow outwards to spread and produce their flowers on the side as well as just the top. So they look differently in terms of their shape, usually from growing fiber to flowers. But you can grow fiber varieties. You can grow in a fiber form, with a high THC variety, and you can grow flower-looking products from a low THC variety, which is what I personally do as well. So the bottom line is there is no difference between hemp and cannabis. It's all one plant. And the terms are really made up to define the legal differences and whether it gets you high or not. Which
Okay. So with building with the hemp material, so the what's used is actually a waste product. Is that right? So if you're growing for fiber, you actually remove the fiber from the plant, and the leftover is actually what they use to build with hemp. Is that correct?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're growing it for. The primary uses. People grow hemp for different uses. So if your primary use is fiber, then what's left is the inner part, which is the hurd or the inner core of the stalk, and that is generally used to mix with lime or rendering for building materials. You can make building materials from the whole plant as well and just chop the whole thing up. That is possible. And they all have different parts. So every part of the plant can be used is the bottom line, especially with the company that I ended up setting up, which is the hemp plastic company. That company was partly set up to use the actual waste products from the industry that I'd seen growing up after decades, where if even in the building industry, even if you take off the fiber and you use that, there's still dust on the floor. If you take off the herds, or some of it's high quality, some of it's low quality, if you extract the flowers into a tincture, you're going to get a waste product out the other end. If you make foods from the seed, you're going to get husks or another waste product. In the hemp plastic company, we found ways where we could take all these different streams from whatever waste there is and actually compound that into a plastics in a stable form. I'm sure similar could happen in the building industry, but again, the hemp building industry is not yet that advanced, as is the hemp plastic industry as well.
So what's some examples of products they use the hemp plastics for?
They can use it for anything. So we work with companies in white goods manufacturing, which means your washing machine, fridge. We make with clothing companies, which make either clothing like jumpers, or they make shoes on soles of shoes. We work with consumer goods companies where they produce jars and bowls. We make musical instruments, make didgeridoos. We make frisbees like those on the wall made from hemp plastics. We work with automotive industry to make different car parts. And the list goes on. I mean, the amount of use of plastics in the world today is ridiculously high. There are many thousands of types of plastics, and obviously hundreds of thousands, or probably millions of types of products that can be made. And so it all depends on what plastic product you use. One of the products that we make, and I can show you that the other side of my office at the moment, but we make like sheeting, flat sheets. So we can make tabletops, we can make kitchen benches, we can make walls, and we can make the skirting on the side, on the bottom of your walls. Light fittings work really well. We've made lots of different products, and hemp plastics is suitable for.
Yeah, awesome. So it's not really used like from a single plastic point of view. It's more.
So again, one thing I learned, and a common question in terms of plastics is hemp plastic biodegradable? Okay, and what we do with our hemp plastics is compound them with different other plastics. So sometimes they're biodegradable plastics, sometimes they're not. Sometimes we'll mix hemp simply with polypropylene. It depends on the actual characteristics of the product that you want. During that search and communication with a bunch of customers, we looked at the viability of and why people wanted biodegradable products. The ideal use for biodegradable products are probably in things like plastic bags, plastic water bottles, okay, if you have to use those kind of products. But if you want to get really ideal, then you should not be using plastic bags or plastic water bottles, which is why most people are banning them. You should be using a recyclable bag or a paper bag or a cloth bag that can last for a long time. If you're making a water bottle, you should do it with steel, where it's can be used thousands and thousands of times. And the same with plastics. You know, part of me is an idealistic on a personal level. It's like to be an idealist, you should be living in a cave in a forest. And maybe that's part of what, you know, off-grid living is part of, you know, living out there in some ways. And we can have that discussion later, because, you know, I don't know, for me, it's not like living as a caveman in the forest. It's like living as a king in the forest in a high technology. So that's another bit we'll get onto later. What I think is there is a balance in this world, and therefore, if you are going to use a plastic product, like for example, the chair I'm sitting on is a Herman Miller chair. You know, this probably will last hundreds of years. You know, I've had it already 25 years, and it actually kind of looks like new and feels like new, and it's got plastic in it. That's the kind of product that I would prefer to make from hemp plastic. So I'd rather not. We've chosen not to make plastic bags and plastic bottles, and we prefer to make products that are designed to last a very long time. So products that will go in your building. That's what I'm saying. Walls and kitchen benches, you know, or chairs that are designed to last hundreds of years, not a chair that's designed to last 5 or 10 years. And that's a much more environmentally conscious thing to do than to let's find a biodegradable form to put into a plastic bottle, because the amount of energy it uses to, even if it's from a waste material, to convert that into a compound that can be used into a product is not ideal in any way. So there are ways now, there's great technology you can get, even with hemp and polypropylene compound blends, to add additives that will make the actual product completely biodegrade at the end of its shelf life. So we can do that with any product and plastic product today. Most people don't, because one, it adds cost to it, and two, you know, what's the point? And there is sometimes a point for some things, but generally there's a better alternative for different uses. So again, hemp plastic won't be used in every plastic product, but there are some very specific places where it works really well.
So for the manufacturers, like, is it a lot more expensive to use a hemp product rather than a traditional plastic product?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it costs like maybe $1.50 a pound of material, which is relatively equivalent to most. It's equivalent or similar to price to most bio products, most eco-friendly plastics. It's not as cheap as just a pure fossil fuel plastic that exists today. So, which is why we're not going after the $1 trillion market. We're only going after the $100 billion market. So it's still such a massive difference we can make on this planet by using hemp plastics in the world. And we're a really small company to start with. We can only produce 100 million pounds a year in our first factory that we have in the US. And sure, we can expand our factories all out the US, Europe, Australia, Asia. We intend to. We have a lot of interest to do that when we have the right capital support for the business. And we will make that kind of difference. But that's, hundreds of millions, $1 billion, $2 billion business. but that's still really tiny in the world of plastics today. So there still needs, when you're making changes at that kind of level, multi-billion-dollar business changes to the way the world works, it really does require legislation, and that has been actually one of the biggest things that have changed. For example, the automotive industry in Europe, that was changed from being a regular automotive industry with lots of different supply chains coming into it, when the European Union said, hey, by, I can't remember what the date was, 2020 something, so not that long, a massive proportion has to be made from biodegradable resources. So we can change those. So there's, you can see there's like pens and cooler holders, cannabis packaging, plates. There's a whole bunch of different types of products that can be made. They're all real products, of course, commercial products that have been made today. So we do need legislation to support the massive growth, but we don't need that today because we can already do this. We are already doing it. And we want to grow, in steps. And there's only so much big steps we can have until people throw a lot of money at this and say, yeah, we really want to make a difference. And one of the biggest difference hemp plastics makes actually is sequestering carbon when you use long-term products. Again, so if you make a plastic water bottle, you're not really sequestering carbon for very long. But if you're making, sort of building with plastics made from hemp, you're actually sequestering that carbon for hundreds of years. So it's a really positive and carbon negative business potentially that we have here.
And that's something I love about it. Like I something I think about all the time. I drive past and I do a lot of driving around remote off-grid places, and I see all these forestries, and I think it's like 25 years. And I think I look at the size of the trees, and I look at think of a bit of pine on the shelf at Bunnings, and I'm just like, that takes so long to get that bit of pine on the shelf for $7, and where in 16 weeks with hemp you can grow a house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see my garden in the season. It's ridiculous. I grow trees every year. They come and they go very quickly, and they produce so much biomass. It's amazing. Yeah.
So with the plastics, most of the people listening to this podcast at the moment here in Australia. So can we get any of these products here in Australia?
Not at this moment in time. We've been in talks. We applied as a group for a government grant to match fund $5 million to bring this business here, and that's still a work in progress. Until something like that happens, we need an investor that wants to bring it to Australia. Right now, even though I'm based in Australia, the founder and one of three directors, and the other two of us are based in Australia. The company we chose to start in the USA. One, because there is a supply chain there already that's big enough. Two, we have manufacturing that's big. And three, because it's one of the biggest markets in the world. So our intention is to set up there, make decent amount of money, and then expand everywhere. We've got people asking to set up in Australia, asking to set up in Europe, asking to set up in Asia. And our priority will be where the support is. So whether that's funding support, customer support, or whatever that might look like, we're very open to how we grow this business together. And it's got to be together. It's not a small business. This is one of the largest businesses. And as you probably know, the businesses I started talking about before, how I started in hemp, I grew them from my garage, my idea, from traveling around the world to a $600 million market cap business, turning over tens of millions of dollars regularly. In US dollars, so that's that has grown. That was small compared to what this is, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, if you were to bring it to Australia, what would be the market to go after? And you think would make the biggest impact here, replacing some sort of products in the market with hemp in Australia?
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, there's so many different options, and we can't do them all. So it depends on what the customer interest is. What is the market demand. We, after at least focusing on this kind of research for 7 years, the last 7 years in the US, where we've, focused on getting the patents, and we've secured 34 patents to make the most cost-effective form of hemp plastics in the world. And that's what I've learned over my time is if you can't make them as cheap as possible, it's probably not worth doing. So we've done that, and through that process, we've learned specific markets that make more sense than others. So some of them are like these cosmetic containers or jars, to put things in. Some of them maybe architectural sheeting. That bottom right photo, for example, is a picture of one of the sheets that you can make, and we can make those super thin and flexible, or we can make them thick and solid, like way better than MDF, and beautiful finish to them as well. So again, we can do these things and many more. It's just what the demand says.
Yeah, exciting. So with the hemp industry in Australia, what do you see, like even from a hemp building point of view, using it in for building houses? What do you think the biggest struggle is for people involved in the industry here to take it to the next level and get more people using hemp in their hemp builds?
I mean, I've had looks at it a couple of times. I've tried to help a couple of businesses grow, and I guess my perspective of what I learn, and I don't really understand the building industry intimately. I only had a couple of years looking at it in depth. Was that most of the building, I guess, people in the building industry are used to doing things in a very structured way. They've been doing it for generations, building houses in the same way, and they've built houses either like this or like this or like this, and whatever way it is, it's what they've been doing. So building houses with hemp is quite different in how it's done, and it requires completely new systems. So making a new system efficiently is not a simple task, no matter how much anyone thinks. Can it be done? Yes, anyone can do it, but it takes a lot of time and effort to do it efficiently. And that's the difference. And most building companies are already doing things efficiently. They're so busy doing what they're doing. Why would they change to something that's not efficient, that is more expensive, even if it is much better? And to me, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you build with hemp? That's much better quality in so many different ways, as well as being sustainable and environmentally friendly. So I think there is a possibility, and I think that's what is missing, is someone who's willing to really take it and create a model that can be replicated nationally. So it needs, and those models, the bigger building companies have that down pat, how to take a model and take it nationally. So for me, I think it requires someone either who wants to be a big company or who is a big company already in the building industry that wants to have a new system. And as I said, I don't really see the demand existing enough yet. So the demand has to come usually from bottom up, but from people like you and me. If we want to build a house from hemp, it's probably going to cost a bit more than a regular house right now. So therefore, there's less of us who can afford to do such things and say, yes, I want to do that. And that's partly because the systems are not efficient. So I think it's going to take, it's a chicken and egg situation, make the systems more efficient but they wait for the demand, and they can't match easily. So there has to be people wanting to be, first adopters, I guess, of new technology in terms of building. And when you're building a house, it's usually the biggest thing you do in your life financially. So who can really afford to I'll build whatever you want. I was really lucky, like when the second biggest purchase is usually a car, and I'm really lucky that I was able to buy a Tesla in the early stages and go, I'm going to be a first adopter. And did I lose money from that? Fuck yeah, excuse my language. I just, a car I paid $220,000 for, I can't sell for $100,000 a few years later. And am I happy with the car? Absolutely. I love it. Is it the best car in the world? Absolutely. But did I lose lots of money from it? Yeah. So how many people can be happy and comfortable with that and smile about it still? And when it comes to a house, it's even more extreme. So I get the challenge with building the hemp building industry. But I can assure your listeners and anyone else who hasn't been in a hemp house, and really the experience of actually being in a hemp house, it speaks wonders. I mean, I was teaching about it. I've written books on hemp building, but until I actually got in a house, it was only in my head how amazing that is. And when I'm going into a hemp building, the breathability is just phenomenal. So
totally, yeah. People don't really and so I've just done my passive house designers course this year, and I was sold on hemp, and I was doing my whole passive designers course, and the amount of things that go into make a house passive, a passive design. So with the passive design house, it's guaranteed to be energy efficient. And when I compare like my knowledge with building in hemp, I've done a couple of hemp houses myself, and I look at a passive house design. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer to just use hemp because there's so many less materials in it. It just performs, and they feel so much healthier naturally. I love technology. Don't get me wrong, and with a passive house, I feel like it's going to be a really high-tech home to be energy efficient. Really, there's lots of moving parts where. With a hemp home, building out of hemp, it just works naturally. They're really energy efficient. I think that's one thing I really see about the price of energy going through the roof right now.
Yeah,
it's really going to encourage people to go, well, because I always tell people the best money you spend is getting your house energy efficient, and hemp is one of the best materials, in my opinion, that you could use to do that. And with prices going through the roof, it's really going to make people go, well, I'm better off spending the extra 10%, whatever it costs to build my house, on a hemp home, knowing that my long-term energy running costs are going to be lower because I've done that than trying to combat rising energy prices in the future.
I couldn't agree more there, Mike. I think everyone, needs to take a long-term perspective on this and know that, build, if you can afford to build your house, but you've got to build it from hemp, and it will pay back over time. And the lifestyle that you will get is worth more than that anyway. So from the health benefits. It made me realize that every house that we live in is generally a plastic bag. And we don't realize that. Now I go in a house and go, I'm in a plastic bag again. So I keep all my windows open when I'm not in a hemp house, and that's just how it is. And,
I know. It's like electric cars, like to me, I feel the same as once you drive an electric car, it's really hard to go back to a petrol car. And the same as even this house here we've had a lot of challenges, with this house here. Because I do things different. We use magnesium oxide board in this house, and we did a lot of things different to try and test and trial stuff. And, I wanted to make this house as sustainable as possible. And it was a real challenge with the tradies to get them to work with the materials I want to, because they're not used to working with these products and these solutions. And that's, it is a real big challenge. As being a customer at the end of the day, trying to get this stuff put in, and tradies don't do it. They charge a fortune for it, and then it doesn't work anyway. Like, I give you an example, my house with magnesium oxide board. No one wanted to set it because they all said, it's crack, it's hard. My brother does it all the time. He's in the Central Coast, so he's like a 6-hour drive away. And he sets it all the time, has no problems. And our house had it all set and just all cracked because they didn't set it properly, So you just downness about, why do I even go ahead and do that stuff? Becomes that challenge. So,
learning curves we're all on. So that's why it's great having people like you around who can share their experience and shortcut people's potential challenges. It's like, we can all figure these things out ourselves and reinvent the wheel, but having an expert around really helps, I find. So,
Totally. And it's, I suppose one of the biggest reasons we started this podcast is, like, to me, listening and learning this stuff's like owning a time machine, because going off grid can be a long journey. If you get it wrong, it can cost you years of your life, of the financial investment to turn around and go back a different direction. And that's another thing as well. Like, a lot of people, when you're going down a path, it's hard to sort of cut ties and stop and turn around and go a different path, So ideally with this podcast, we can educate people and ideally help people get better educated to build better from day one and help accelerate going off grid and building with the right materials and doing those designs. Because at the end of the day, the best money you spend will be making your house energy efficient. And hemp seems to be one of the best products out in the market to do that. Awesome. So, mate, tell us a bit more about the so you worked with Hemp Foods Australia for a very long time. Tell us a bit more about this and the benefits of hemp in your diet.
Yeah, well, I originally started, as I said, in the UK. When I came over to Australia in about 1999, I set up Hemp Foods Australia to bring foods to Australians, but the legislation didn't allow. It took 17 years to get hemp foods legal. That was a bit of a long journey for me, waiting for that long for the Australian government to catch up. And just before that, I decided to make high quality hemp seeds so to allow people to access them. And you can see those kind of products are the foundational products there: hemp seeds, hemp oil, and hemp protein, and skincare products on the top row. And you can have those in all different forms, but the most natural, close product to nature is the whole hemp seeds. And I have them every day still. 28 years later, I love them and I feel the benefits of them. People go, wow, your skin is like, you're 18 still. It's like, I am 18. No, I don't. As I said, but that is one of the major benefits of having high amounts of essential fatty acids. It's really great for your skin. It's also good for your immune system. It's good for your nails and a whole bunch of other things that essential fatty acids are known for. So people take fish oils, flaxseed oil, all for the same reason, but hemp seeds and hemp oil all contains those essential fatty acids in a great balanced way. So if you want the essential fatty acids, the best form is the hemp oil in the center there. If you want the other side of the benefits of hemp seeds, which is the protein content, then Hemp Foods Australia now make the best hemp gold protein. It's a white, clear, beautiful natural protein that tastes absolutely great. When we first started, we were making green proteins and they weren't that high in protein, and we've learned to mechanically produce it still, so there's no chemicals, anything involved, completely natural. This wonderful protein that I add in my smoothies regularly. They do a bunch of different flavored ones, of course, as well. And that's like, I think 60% protein content in that particular powder. They're working on 70-80% ones I've tried from in the R&D labs. But 60% protein is wonderful from a natural part from the plant. And if you mix the hemp proteins and hemp oils together, that's basically what the hemp seeds are. So in the hemp seed, you're getting a mix of hemp oil and hemp protein. You're getting both the essential fatty acids and the high quality protein with all the amino acids put together. So it's why I like the most natural form. It's the balanced form that you can take on a daily basis. But if there's a reason you need hemp oil, like if you have psoriasis or eczema or some skin condition, there's a reason you need essential fatty acids, and just get your boost with oil. If you're a bodybuilder or you need your protein for some reason because you're a vegan or something like that, then use the hemp protein and catch up on that. But once you've got that stable, or you don't need any of those really for any specific reason, then hemp seeds are what I would consume. And the skincare range, I created Sativa because your body is your largest organ, your skin is your largest organ, so you actually consume whatever you put on your skin. So if you're putting chemicals in your skin, you want to stay away from that crap. So this is all natural, organic made products that you can put on your skin and your arms and on your lips and wherever you want, and you're consuming the good oils through that process as well. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of like salmon, that sort of fish that everyone wants you to eat for omega-3s, and that was my solution to get hemp seeds and throw in my cereal and that sort of stuff to sort out my omega-3s. So I love them. Yeah, it's great.
Less heavy metals than the fish, sadly, these days. Getting fish is really hard these days. You're either getting it from the ocean, which is completely polluted everywhere and obviously not sustainable for our planet, or you're getting it from farmed, chemically fed fish, in a different way. So where the hemp seeds come from that same plant that grows in a few weeks, and you can do that completely organically and sustainably, and great for the soil. So
totally. Yeah, I had some gum problems there at a period of time. It was basically from consuming alcohol, and I wasn't a real big drinker, but I'd have a couple of beers a week. And a mate of mine, he was making hemp basically here locally, and he said, give this a go and just put a couple of drops in your mouth every day, and it really changed and fixed. Even then when I was drinking alcohol, I gave up alcohol and I didn't need to take the hemp anymore. But while I was drinking, taking the hemp, it just was a game changer for my gums and for my mouth. It was unreal. So some definitely good products out there. So
well done for your grog, mate. Well done.
Cheers. So it's been a couple of years. Well, I've been on and off for well over 10 years now. So but yeah, about 4 years ago, my 40th. So I decided to give up drinking a year before my 40th. So yeah, it's been 4 years. So give up a year drinking before my 40th, and then I never took it back up. And I don't see the point anymore. So one of those things. Awesome. So mate, okay, so you've been a lot involved in hemp. So you've got another business as well that you're working on starting at the moment. So tell us more about this other business with the psychedelics, with the hemp.
Yeah. So after I basically retired from a lot of these businesses. I'm still a director of Hemp Plastics and the chairman, so that takes up quite a bit of my time. But I also I retired from my public company job. I had the opportunity to see, there a lot of people were getting involved with psychedelics. So I had a lot of positive experiences and negative experiences with psychedelics, but I saw the potential of them, and particularly as clinical studies come and focus on PTSD, anxiety, and then a whole bunch of other things, where psychedelics can actually offer a new perspective for people, and often really powerful form of healing. And people say that using psychedelics in one session is like 100 sessions of psychotherapy, for example. I often hear that quoted, and that's my experience and the experience of many people that I've seen. So I had the opportunity to set up a company to look at psilocybin, or magic mushrooms, as they're well known, for therapy. And that turned into a company where we realized that, again, no one's manufacturing it here. So we would look at manufacturing psilocybin in Australia legally. So I set up that company, and I'm good at starting things. So I'm now stepped back from that company, but I'm really happy that that's continuing, and as is the psychedelic industry. And it was only, I don't know, a year or so ago where I discovered that even though I'd been involved with the cannabis industry for decades, and I'd consumed cannabis occasionally, sometimes for longer periods, sometimes not for years, I have had the experience of cannabis when you have too much, sometimes being what may be considered psychedelic. But I never really saw it as a therapeutic form of psychedelics. And most people seem, to think that psychedelics, that's psilocybin, magic mushrooms, LSD, ayahuasca, DMT, these kind of things. But what I learned is that cannabis can actually also be a very traditional psychedelic. And I learned this in America from people who had been doing this for thousands of times with people. I experienced it myself and found it fascinating. So I realized that it was an opportunity for me to bring two worlds together, which was my cannabis experience of decades and my interest in psychedelics and the therapy business more recently in the last few years. And I realized that you can actually offer cannabis psychedelic therapy today legally in Australia. So I believe I'm the first business officially offering that now. Cannabis psychedelics has already been operating for a while before it's even launched publicly, giving psychedelic sessions to people for therapy. I do that individually with people in my home here in the Byron Shire. I also do it in groups. I do it online, and I have a few events planned. I have one on the Gold Coast. I'm in the middle of starting our first training course for therapists. I've trained a few people up so far, a number of psychotherapists, a number of people just interested in therapy work. So I'm hoping to have therapists all around the country offering the same kind of experience for people. And the experience is fascinating. People basically come in for a session. Well, first of all, they have to go through a bunch of safety and health questions. Then we have an interview session, and then if we believe that it's appropriate for them to have cannabis psychedelic therapy, they come for a session. It's a 4-hour kind of session, of which 2 hours of that is the actual psychedelic therapy. And they go through a sound journey, a led meditation, basically creating a very safe setting for people where they can experience probably the most gentle form of psychedelics that exists, but absolutely is a true psychedelic, which means that it really does alter the mind. It does give, like most traditional psychedelics, full hallucinations to people. And it allows people to go into their body to find what may be hidden trauma, hidden memories, healing of different forms. I've seen so many different effects for so many different people we've treated, but pretty much everyone has had a phenomenal experience, and some of those testimonials are up on our website, cannabispsychedelics.com.au. And it feels a really exciting offering to people to have this experience in a safe setting. Now, of course, it's not fully legal to have cannabis without having a prescription today, but you can get a prescription really easy for medical cannabis. So we don't supply the cannabis. People have to go to their doctor or online and just get a prescription, get the cannabis delivered to them to their door if they like. They bring the cannabis to us, and we give everything else around that, which is before, during the session. And we also have an integration session after to make people like they have a wonderful experience in the psychedelic session, but we want to make sure they integrate that and create real change in their life. So it's great having 100 psychotherapy sessions in one day, but you still have to integrate that in your life. So we have that support setting, and we also have the settings of groups of people who've had these experiences. We have psychotherapists on hand, psychiatrists on hand, should anyone of these kind of people be needed. It depends on what people's issues are. We've had people who have used cannabis before, who use it regularly to come for these experiences, who have never experienced a psychedelic experience with cannabis, just thinking, well, you can get really high, and that's all they know. But they don't really realize that you can actually have a full session. So they come and they've experienced that. We've given it to people who've never had cannabis before, who are just interested in psychedelic therapy and thinking and know that because it's the most gentle form of psychedelics, they'll have a go. And we've also given it to a lot of people who used to consume cannabis, had a big cookie one day, had a really bad experience and have hated it since, don't want to get involved and been scared to take it again. So we give them a safe format to like reintroduce them to the plant in a different form, in a much more sacred, ceremonial, ritualized method to give them an experience and see what comes up from them.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I'm probably one of the last ones. As a kid, we got stoned and we had magic mushrooms on a pizza, and I actually become allergic to everything on the pizza due to the mushrooms, and so I'm allergic to mushrooms. So it's interesting. So and not all types of mushrooms. I'm allergic to since that day, and it's for me it was amazing. That was my experience of psychedelics, and then I've done a whole heap of business coaching and been involved in a whole heap of high-end, like really wealthy business people. And we've gone to these groups and a lot of them have all done the, gone away and done the controlled with the magic mushrooms experiences. And they've all said it's been like completely game changing how much it changed their business and accelerated their lives and brought their business forward. It was really interesting to understand, because to me it was something that, I was allergic to and don't ever do again.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then that's, well, this is a safe way to not have those negative experiences, really. And I think with safe setting, it's nothing's guaranteed, but most people have like really, truly life-changing experiences, it seems.
Yeah.
So, and that's what they tell me anyway. And it's really exciting to hear that. And I guess cannabis is also the only psychedelic that you have that gives you the agency to stop the psychedelic experience. So most where you take mushrooms, like you're on a mushroom trip and until it finishes. But with cannabis, you can go into the psychedelic experience at any point in time. You can just say, no, I don't want to have this experience anymore. So we facilitate that. And in our 2-hour sessions, we give people at least one experience in the middle where they can they come out of it. They go to the toilet or walk around and go, oh yeah, life is normal, isn't it? That's all right. And then they go back inside and go back into their journey inside. And there's no other psychedelic you can do that with, only cannabis. So it's a really exciting space, and I think this is the beginning of I guess making psychedelic therapy normal and accessible to most people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I was blown away by how many successful business owners that, as part of the groups and those involved in, have gone down some sort of path like that there, and it's been a game changer in their life, and it really helped them open up a lot of business doors and things like that. So yeah. Definitely interesting. Oh, cool. So, mate, where to from here? Tell us, what's the plan, and where do you see hemp going in the next few years?
Oh, I think hemp is only just beginning, and in Australia, really just sprouting even. So I think there's a long way for it to go. There's a lot of growth ahead in all forms of hemp in the industry. I'm here, supporting whatever I can within the industry. People are starting up businesses to support them to create a strong foundation for their growth. So I'm happy to help anyone who needs that support. Personally, I'm really, kind of slowing down on the hill here in the Byron Shire, growing my vegetables, living with my solar panels and trying to offer therapy, so more the inner work, the inner change with the cannabis psychedelics. And I'm enjoying working one-on-one with people in groups online, and I'm even going to run a retreat where 9 Perfect Strangers was filmed, the movie, which was about psychedelic retreats. So that should be fun. I'm also running a week-long immersion in Thailand, because cannabis is fully legal there now. So that's kind of more my fun space, and what I feel like I'm doing from my I guess, really making a difference directly to people. On a business level, hemp buildings, hemp plastics, hemp foods, all these industries are going to grow. There's no question. It's just at what speed. So it's an exciting time ahead.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's something for me as I got older, and I'm starting to understand a lot more how the mind and the body works, and I think a lot of people don't value or realize and understand how much your life is created inside internally, and doing a lot of that work internally is what creates your life, So your outer world or realms created from a lot of the work you do internally. So something I've definitely been focused on the last few years and spending a lot more time and energy to do. So it's, definitely exciting what you're doing with the hemp and those sort of experiences. So.
Well, thank you, Michael, for what you're doing. I appreciate everything you're doing to get people off the grid.
Yep. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, look, even I'm actually, it's funny with the whole off-grid thing. Like, to me, I really believe in self-sufficiency, and it's one of those things that's supposed to me staying connected to the grid. It's one of those things, like the way I look at it for myself personally. I'm in an urban environment. I stay connected to the grid because I can share my abundance and my excess solar. Where I'm off grid, I can't do that. So, it's definitely there's definitely a lot of fun stuff going on with solar renewables and that off-grid and self-sufficient. But I think if everyone could just focus on being a little bit more self-sufficient, less reliable on the community to do what they're doing, whatever it is in life, I think that's going to make a huge difference. So,
yeah, awesome,
mate. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, and we'll put all your links down below. And when everything's ready, and we'd love to have you back on again and tell us more about how everything's going.
Wonderful. Lovely to hear from you. And have an awesome day.
Thanks, mate. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found the content educational and inspiring. If you got something out of it and you think you know someone else that would actually also enjoy it, we'd really appreciate if you could share the link with them and encourage them to check out our channel. And don't forget, you can join the Off Grid Tribe podcast for free. We can actually ask and interact with myself and also our guest speakers. So jump over today to offgridtribe.com, register yourself an account. We can actually have a conversation with myself and one of our guest speakers, and we can continue the conversation there. Together, let's embrace the power of sustainable living.